Hello. It's time to turn this off, that alarm. I set alarms when I'm in the kitchen. Good thing to, always keep up with things when you're doing multiple food. Now, I'm CJ Miller. I'm in my kitchen in Shreveport, Louisiana. Uh, I live downtown across the Red River from beautiful Bossier City, Louisiana. Always want to invite you to come check us out. So, for the next several days, I want to be kind of at the ready. There's a lot of things going on with a lot of different areas, and that any given time I may be needed or called away from the apartment or whatever. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to be caught, halfway through a meal or something like that, meal prep or something. So what I'm going to do, this will work for anybody who is a lot of you probably already know that too. If you kind of work maybe on call, or maybe you're just going to have like brief moments of eating where you're going to be able to just have your quick break, get in, eat your food, and get out, and eat everything. So this is just something that we can do. Now this is ground beef, about a pound of ground beef in the skillet, and I've got an onion and tri-pepper mix, and I love that. This is going to be the basis of my beef taco. I'm going to add a little package of taco seasoning, but you can pretty much make this stuff up yourself if you don't have it. Some onion, paprika, a little bit of garlic, maybe just a twang or two of what you would like to do. There's this is what should we say? There is salt, and they just say spices. The spices, I want to interpret that as a little bit of a cayenne, a little bit of chili, something like that. The same, blends. You can look up online any taco blend at home, really works well too. As a matter of fact, I actually kind of prefer what's being made at home, but I have this, and I'm going to be using a box kit because they're convenient. So that's what I'm going to be doing here, tacos. And I've got something else. This is going to be something I can have that's quick. So here on this pan, I've got about 4 catfish fillets and 2 red snapper fillets, and I've got them in a breadcrumb. I've got them resting. That's what the alarm was. It's time for me to put this in the oven. So I've got the, but I can take a few minutes to explain what I'm doing here. Should be self-explanatory. That same tri-pepper and onion blend. Sometimes when I'm cooking, I want to chop up a little other things to kind of go with it. But just in general, if you just love these good aromatics, this is a great way to go. Some of them have celery. Some of them you have to add your celery. I've got celery. I just didn't feel like chopping up the celery and putting it on here because I wanted, like I said, to be a little efficient. The whole idea of this is that this is something that I'm going to be able to cook, and these are something that I'm going to have on hand the next few days, along with the taco meat. And then I've got one more thing. I had these 3 pork chops from the meal the other day, and basically I just shook them in plain breadcrumbs and just put them in the oven. This is very, very simple, no added seasoning, nothing. Some of the breadcrumb here is going to, when I pick it up, it may be in areas where it got a little too coated or a little too piled up on the meat. This kind of stuff takes moisture in order to brown. You have to add a little moisture to it or something. That's really okay because whatever, it's not really going to affect anything. This is just set up that I can put any sort of dipping sauce on it, a side of cheese. I can have it, whatever. But that's whatever. Oh, and this cookie sheet, or whatever, is flimsy, and so it will move around as it cools off. from the heat. It's the other day I was cooking and using the same sheet, and it you know kind of twanged while it was in the oven. At first, I was like, "Oh my god!" When I first started cooking, I would notice these things, and I was like, "Oh my god, is it something going to explode? Is the oven?" And it's always good if you're in doubt, check it out, make sure. But yeah. Um, and as we take this out and let this rest and cool to be set aside to get ready for the fridge or whatever, then you just know that as it's sitting on this hot surface. This was going for 430 degrees, and it went for just a few minutes, and then I did the exchange where I put the fish in, but I lowered the temperature of the oven. I was still at the same temperature that I opened the door, but you let a lot of the heat out anyway. So I put it in the oven and set it at 350, and I'm going to bake those fish at 350. And the whole idea there is I want to watch the vegetables, those aromatic vegetables, and I want them to get nice and tender. But for some reason, if the vegetables don't do what I want them to do, if they don't turn out, that's really okay, because I basically can just knock them off of the fish, set them aside, use them for garnish on a plate if I want to. But because what's really important is going to be the aromatics, the flavors as they escape from those vegetables as they're being cooked atop that fish. Now, I did the fish in the same unflavored breadcrumb. Then I put in the aromatic vegetables, and then just to be a little bit extra, because just because I'm preparing ahead doesn't mean that it's got to be, not good. I took some grated Parmesan and I put over on top of the fish also. Grated Parmesan, it's not really going to melt. Maybe it'll get a little melty, I don't know, but it's not going to get like a liquidy, gooey, creamy melt going on to it. It will kind of add a little bit of cling and a little bit of a crust, and that's something you can add to your breadcrumb if you want to. You can put a little Parmesan on it or whatever. I did not do that here. Okay, and then basically now it's time for me to go sit down and relax for a moment. And sitting down to rest is exactly what I'm going to do. Here I have some tea that I have brought over in some hot water, and I've set it to just kind of mash. It's my favorite. My friend of mine introduced this to me. Big Leo, I don't know. Sun-kissed oranges, taste the difference. I kind of give it a little bit of a dip here and there. And it's, this is there's not, in this tea, there's not a caffeine in it. Although, I don't see why that should matter. You've seen how many sodas I drink, right? Well, in my bid to be, available, I also want to be in a quite a good frame of mind, and I want my blood pressure level and everything like that. So I'll be slacking off for the next few days on the amount of caffeine. I'll still have my Coke Zeros and my coffee, but it's a little bit more of this kind of stuff too. I love these round wooden large disc, these plates that I got at Kirkland's. I'm using them as table chargers. I can't help but think that's what they were meant to be. They're so large. But oh my god, you can add a little honey to this or sugar or something if you want. I prefer not to, and it's so smooth. A good hot tea, if it has especially reduced caffeine or no added caffeine or something like that, can be really relaxing. And if you're having a hectic schedule come up, or that that you're going to have to be kind of potentially ready, for anything, take good care of your stress levels, and everything. Take time to calm down in those moments, and if you're a young family and got children bustling about and everything, that's not always easy. So if you have to go into a room, uh, once everybody's situated or whatever, to go into a private room and shut the door and have a cup of tea, you know, do what relaxes you, burn a candle, maybe make a little video for your social media, whatever, but really just kind of, take this moment for yourself to recharge because, the truth is, if we don't have a reserve of positive energy, when that positive energy is needed, when they need us to contribute whatever kind of positive energy that we have, if we haven't taken the time to provide that to ourselves, to call upon it from whatever means that we get that, prayer, meditation, just healthy reflection, and taking the time to rest, even when time to rest can be in short supply, then if we don't take care of that part of ourselves, we're not really gonna have it when it's needed. We can't take care of other people in whatever way that we might need to, or other situations can't be, can't be what we need or want to be if we're not taking care of ourselves, and that's really kind of what this little video is about. A little you time. I do a lot of, 12-step meetings and things like that. I have been doing it for years. And one of the first things, and it sounded so ridiculous, but it was like the most ridiculous advice. Why don't you go, soak in a warm bath, take a bubble bath. It's that. Turn the lights down low and do that, And it's like, that seemed like the dumbest advice. Believe me, it's good advice. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do that later on tonight. I'm going to cook the food. I'm not going to eat right away. A tasting video may or may not be forthcoming. That fish, doesn't take long for the fish to come. Let's go check on it. Okay, I got that timer turned off. I want to give this a little flip or stir. The reason why I'm rendering this is out, the reason why I'm taking out all these juices, rendering it slower, is because I want the vegetables to cook and get a little bit more tender, and I want to basically not heat up the apartment. Give this a little flip here, and just kind of toss this around. I'll get to that in a second. I'm gonna peek in at the fish. Okay, so the fish is still cooking. It's not going to be that much longer. I kind of estimated how much time I thought. Each time that you cook a little something, it's not just your oven, how your oven performs. You do need to know your oven in baking, especially with breads and cakes and things. Just really need to know how it works, but also with the amount of food that you might be cooking will affect the cooking time, and what is can be a 10 to 12 minute cooking is gonna be stretched out, probably, I estimate, to probably about 20 minutes, and that is because I did bread the fish and with breadcrumbs, and while it was still partially frozen. And so the temperature of your food when you start cooking it. A lot of recipes will say, hey, have it thawed out in room temperature and everything. That's not always practical. It is sometimes best to do that. In this case, I just wanted to get started. With fish, though, you can kind of run it under water in the sink and give it a little bit of that, and it'll make it a little easier to handle. And then kind of pat it down and then do your breading. But yeah, fish is really one of those things I don't like to set out to thaw. If it's got to thaw, I want to thaw it in the refrigerator or something because bacteria or whatever. Now this is not, if this were tea leaves, I'm still trying to read oh my God. There's no tea leaves in here. You would take a cup like this and you would turn it 2 or 3 times, and you would let the leaves or the grounds or whatever kind of like form, and then you look into it and it's like, wow. It's like looking at the forest in the wild, and you look up into the trees and you see crisscrosses that form shapes that may form shapes that look like the rune stones. That's where rune stones, which were a Teutonic alphabet, by the way, that was Nordic mythology, that Odin sacrificed himself to himself, right? And there's 2 ways to look at it. Is he extremely vain, or did he do it for the betterment of the world that was in his charge? And anyway, so he hung himself upside down from a tree, hanged himself. There you get the hanged man in the tarot deck, as very reminiscent of that story, because he's usually depicted as being hung upside down from 1 foot by a tree or something like that. It could be any kind of figure, but he's the decks that I have, I've seen him like looking down into the pond, and this is where you start getting the idea of written letter, written shapes, hieroglyphs, or anything like that. In this case, the whole idea is that he was hanging. He looked into a puddle as he was hanging, and he saw reflecting shapes, alphabets, and things like that. And that basically, I think it was probably the reflection of the branches of the tree reflecting back. But what he saw were shapes that gave shapes that are on a rune stone, and they look very similar to written letters. So they're not just hieroglyphs where you're telling stories with the etched out pictures. It's not hieroglyphs to me. Egyptian hieroglyphs almost look like an old-fashioned picture book, whereas rune stones is where we start getting into alphabet and how you can take the different stones, which individually have their own meaning, kind of like Chinese lettering, Japanese lettering, any of them. There's so many different languages that are like this. And then what happens is, you take these shapes that have meaning to themselves, but you put them in a sequence, and you can create words, and then those words create phrases and sentences and things like that. So right, but yeah. So that's the Norse mythology of how Odin created alphabet. Of course, alpha, beta, that's Greek, So, there's, Greek, which is kind of the seat of democracy. And of course, they have their own myths, of times past. Their ancient Greece had their own myths, which, by the way, led into a lot of Roman myths. A lot of the Greek gods have Roman names. And then, of course, gets during the Roman, spreading out through all of what they did, uh, yeah, they basically like just kind of absorbed or adopted any sort of local cultures into what they did, and they kind of turned it around. They either could make use of it and turn it around and bring it into their culture and how they interpreted their religions and everything like that. And that way it was kind of help the local people feel better about being taken over. And if they didn't like it, they were going to get like chopped up, whatever. Um, or whatever Romans did. Apparently they were pretty big on crucifixion. The hanged man, But anyway, if the allowing them to keep some of their ways and their cultures that did not clash as they absorbed it into their religion became a way of subduing, and that's your ultimate cultural appropriation. But then if it didn't work, if it was something that was contradictory, then they would demonize it. That's why in a lot of the world's religions, you will see that, the gods of older cultures are reminiscent of the demons or the villainous deities and demi-deities of cultures that are to, proceed what came before, So, and that's just a big thing that happened, throughout the world. All the way back. I definitely, for me, feel that there is the existence of benevolent power greater than myself that takes an interest in my life, and which I choose to just refer as God, for lack of a better term, but I think it's nice to reflect and commune with those types of ideas. For me, it helps keep me calm and centered, and I'm not so much talking about religion as much as I'm talking about like a nice philosophy. Okay, I'm gonna go check on the fish. Here goes. I've got like a really good internal time. Yeah, I used to do cosmetics, and we set timers for everything in the chemical work that I did. And then eventually you get used to knowing, hey, by the way, it's time. It's time. You get like this internal thing where, okay, it's been 5 minutes, it's been 10 minutes, it's been 15 minutes. Okay, it's time to rinse. It's time to neutralize. It's been, and now it's time to take the perm rods out, and because the neutralizer's done what it's supposed to do, So yeah, that kind of stuff. Let me pause the video, check on the fish. And so this is the fish as a finished product. Like I said, if I find that the vegetables are too plentiful when I get ready to eat the fish, that's okay. I can just use them. I just eat some of them. It's basically, I want the flavor rather than the texture in this particular instance. But this is really good, and you can do this. Is just also something you can do is you can have this kind of set up, and then if you want to, you can have 2 or 3 different types of sauces going in your oven. All these things that from the pork or something, and that way, if you have people coming over, you can offer a little bit of everything. I do things sometimes in courses, but a lot of times I'll serve the courses at the same time, so that somebody wants to have a little bit of fish now. And I kind of do it where I kind of set it out, kind of buffet style, just kind of like, I don't have a staff of waiters going around. I'm the server when people come over, and so when that's the case, I lay the food out on the table, and then have the people go after it. But in this case, you could make this to order. Like you could have these kind of things, and then you could offer a little bit of, oh, do you want the, you know, you want the catfish? Okay, and you want the catfish on a little bit of a, I don't know, puree of peas or something like that. Then you could do that, or if you maybe pork chop with the side of you know marinara sauce or something like that. Tacos are going to be self-explanatory. uh, but yeah, that's it. My cooking is done. I finished my cup of tea. I'm going to let this food cool off a little bit, and then I'm going to prep it, put it away in the fridge, and then it'll be ready. The next few meals that I have. Let me show you the meat, the hamburger. Yeah, so this ground round or whatever, you'll see in the stores. You'll see there's various different, you know, uh, someone didn't know this, and I thought maybe everybody must know this by now. But I've been thinking back, I didn't always know it until I learned it. But you have that percentage, hamburger meat, and you're wondering why is this a little bit more pricey than this or that or whatever. And you can get it's a ratio of fat tissue to the muscle tissue that's ground up, and it's an estimated ratio, obviously, but I'm sure there's an error margin in which they're allowed to have, and then whatever. But yeah, so what I've done, and this was 80%, I think. I'd have to look at the package. Yes, so 80% and lean, and then 20% of the fat content. So, and you can get it, 73% meat and more fat, or you can get it if you really want to get there. You can pay a little bit more, and you can get beef that has, I don't know, almost no fat content. You can get your butcher to chop those things up for you. If you're like that, you can pay extra for cuts of certain cuts of beef. To be turned into your hamburger, but typically your ground round steak is going to be the same as your ground sirloin steak in America. The cut's a little bit different in Europe, and there's a finer quality, a definition to what a sirloin is. Our sirloin over here can stretch and be from as it can encompass part of the fillet, or it really can just be a chunk of ground round. I've actually gone to a restaurant and I was very disappointed. I'd ordered a sirloin, and it came out, and it was like, oh my God, this is not what I'm thinking of when I'm thinking of sirloin. This is just a hunk of, ground chuck, not ground, but just a hunk of chuck steak or round steak. But round steak is a thinner slice of chuck steak. But it was just a big chuck steak cut into a giant block, and it was like, wow, this is so not a steak. This is not, so that, when you go to this family style steakhouse, you want to watch out for those. If you're thinking you're going to get a steak, but you order like the house special, it may be a steak, or it may just be a big chop of chuck that they're going to maybe season like a steak and treat like a steak, but it's not a steak, Uh, and yeah, so, and it just depends. It depends upon how, what part of that, what we call the American sirloin, uh, but generally, don't worry about buying a special cut for your hamburger meat. Because it's all going to be, it doesn't really matter how you think, it's all going to be minced up and ground like this, tenderized and everything. So you can use your cheaper cuts. You can use the packaged stuff right out of the store. It's going to be just as great as going to your butcher and getting them to take your filet mignon and turning it into hamburger meat. I don't know why somebody would do that. It's really going to have the exact same effect on the palate. It's gonna taste the same. It's gonna have the same texture. It's gonna be like, yeah, it's yeah. You don't need to do that. You know. Anyway, so this is done. I'm gonna give this a little stir. There's a couple of little pieces that I see. Maybe I could come in here and kind of hit with the edge of my spatula and kind of get it to a little bit of a finer. Uh, so I'm going to finesse it a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is maybe, you know, uh, once it's all done, then if I feel like I need to have a little something to eat, I can do that. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what I said, take my own advice, go draw a bath and soak in that sucker. Okay, bon appetit, God bless, love and light, and good night.